The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. In this very place, a man vanished. His body was never found to this day. No one knows where he went. But his boat was found among the willow trees on the riverbank, lying there in silence. This is a story I witnessed myself. You may not believe it. I didn't believe it myself that day. But I saw it right to the very end. My friend and I were traveling the Danube in a small canoe. He was a Swede, calm, strong, practical-minded. We'd been friends for years, through many dangerous journeys, and I'd always trusted his courage. We'd planned to paddle from the river's source, all the way to the Black Sea. The first few days had been wonderful, but once we passed beyond Hungary, the river began to change. Villages vanished. Heavy rains had flooded the banks. What I saw wasn't a normal riverbank at all. Bushes drowned underwater. An endless expanse with no visible edge. And everywhere, willow trees, thousands of them spread along both banks. When the wind blew, their silver leaves shimmered like a wave. It was beautiful, but it gave me a strange feeling too. A feeling that this place wasn't meant for people. "Where shall we camp tonight?" I asked. That's when I saw it. A small island in the middle of the river, flat and sandy, thick with willow trees. "There," said the Swede, pointing. "Good shelter and plenty of firewood." I looked at the island. For some reason, a strange feeling came over me. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something else. The island felt outwardly calm, but it was a silence that seemed to be waiting for something. As we neared the shore, that feeling grew stronger. The wind through the willow leaves made a strange sound. Not just rustling, but something that sounded almost like voices talking. Thousands of them, very faint. "Can you hear that?" I asked the Swede. He laughed. "That's just the wind." But there was a small hesitation in his voice. I felt it clearly. We stepped onto the island. The willow trees surrounded us on every side, seemed to sway and watch us. "Let's camp here," the Swede said. "Night's closing in." I agreed. But a question stayed with me. Why has no one ever camped on this island before? I didn't say it aloud. As we set up the tent, I noticed something odd. In the middle of the island, some strange pits in the sand, round, deep, arranged almost in a line. They didn't look natural at all. I walked over and touched one. At that very instant, the wind stopped suddenly. The sound of the willow leaves went completely silent. A terrible, living stillness settled over the island. I looked up. The Swede stood frozen by the tent, staring at the far end of the island. On his face, an expression I'd never seen before, fear. "What's wrong?" I asked. He turned slowly. His voice came out shaking. "We're not alone on this island." A chill ran through my entire body. The sun vanished that very second. Darkness closed in around us. I didn't know that day that this was only the beginning. If you are enjoying this story till now, please press the subscribe button and like the video. Creating these stories takes a lot of time and effort in editing the content, and your support means a lot and motivates us to create more amazing stories for you. Now, let's continue with the story. We're not alone on this island. Those words were still echoing in my ears. That night, we couldn't sleep at all. Once darkness had fully settled, we lit a fire, but even its light brought us no comfort. The willow trees looked closer, taller in the dark. Even the sound of the river seemed strangely different than usual. Neither of us spoke much. The Swede sat staring into the fire. On his face, the fear I'd seen earlier in the day still hadn't faded. He'd never been like this before. His calmness felt different tonight. We lay down in the tent, but sleep never came for me. My mind kept circling around the island's emptiness, those pits. The unexplained dread of it all. That's when the sound began. It wasn't the sound of wind, it wasn't the rustle of leaves either. It was a sort of hum, as if coming from far away. But it also seemed to come from every direction at once, like a great bell tolling. But it wasn't a bell. It sounded to me like the breathing of some living creature. "Swede," I called softly. "Can you hear that?" He didn't answer, but his eyes were wide open. In the dark, they stared fearfully towards the entrance. I slowly pulled back the tent flap. Outside, the willow trees were swaying, but there was no wind. Not a single leaf moved from a breeze, and yet the whole tree swayed from one side to the other, slowly, rhythmically, like some kind of dance. I'd never seen anything like it before. I couldn't believe my eyes. Among the trees, something seemed to rise up, a tall, smoke-like form, not human, not animal either. It seemed to drift slowly, from one tree to the next. It felt to me like it was looking at me. I closed the flap at once. My heart was pounding. My hand shook. "We need to leave here at first light," I whispered. The Swede nodded, but on his face, there was something he was holding back, not saying. The two of us stayed awake the whole night. That sound never faded, never stopped. It felt like it was pressing into my very bones. Every minute felt like an hour. When the first light of dawn appeared, I breathed a sigh of relief. I thought the night was finally over. I stepped out of the tent. In the sunlight, the island looked ordinary again. It gave me a small flicker of hope. I went to check on our boat. The moment I saw it, my whole body froze. In the bottom of our canoe, a large hole. It wasn't a hole from striking a rock. It looked as if it had been torn open from the inside. And one of our paddles was missing. Who had done this? We thought there was no one else on this island with us. I knelt down and studied the hole closely. Its edges looked pushed outward from the inside. This wasn't a crack from hitting a rock. This looked deliberate. The Swede came and stood beside me. His face was pale. A sleepless night showed in his eyes. "I've been thinking about this all night," he said slowly. "What? This place isn't meant for us." I looked at him. He'd never spoken like this before. This man who always thought logically, practically, now seemed like a different person entirely. We opened the food box. Most of the bread and meat that had been there last night, more than half of it was gone. It didn't look like an animal had taken it. The box had stayed closed the whole time. No bite marks either. Quietly, we began repairing the canoe. Using cloth and resin, we tried to seal the hole. Our hands trembled, but we kept working. That's when a small boat appeared on the river. In it was a local peasant. He was heading towards our island, but the moment he saw us, he suddenly stopped. There was fear on his face. He raised his hands and made some kind of gesture. Over and over, he shouted something that meant, "Go, get away from here." He crossed himself against his chest. In his eyes, there was a genuine fear on our behalf. "What's he saying?" I asked the Swede. The Swede shouted something back in his language. "Don't stay here," is what we heard. The peasant didn't reply. He turned his boat around and rowed away quickly, full of fear. He never once looked back. Within seconds, he vanished around the river bend. He knows something about this island, I said. The Swede said nothing in reply. He worked on silently, repairing the boat. His hands trembled slightly, even as he worked. We tried to leave quickly, but the river was still in flood. Setting out into this current with a half-repaired boat was too dangerous, the Swede said. We couldn't finish the repair before evening. We'll have to stay here. One more night, he said. My chest tightened. The fear that last night might happen again gripped me completely. The sun began to set once more. The sky turned red. I looked at the willow trees. They seemed closer than they had that morning, leaning towards our tent. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. The Swede came and stood beside me and said in a very quiet voice, "They want one of us tonight." The way the Swede said it sent a chill down my spine. That night, I came close to losing a friend. Once darkness fell, that hum began again. Louder, closer than the night before. It felt as though it was circling our tent itself. We sat near the fire. The Swede stayed quiet for a long while. In his hands, he turned a small stick over and over, trying to hide his unease. Then, he began to speak slowly. "This place," he said, "is a border between our world and some other world. What lives here isn't good and isn't evil either. They don't care about us at all. We've simply walked into their path. That's all this is." "What are you trying to say?" I asked. "They need an offering. If we're to leave this place alive, they must take something." I wanted to call him mad, but I couldn't bring myself to say it because I could feel it too. Part of my own mind had begun to believe him. The sound grew louder still. I felt it pounding inside my own skull. Everything before my eyes began to blur slightly. The Swede suddenly stood up. His eyes looked strange, staring into the distance. He didn't look at me at all. They seemed glassy, empty. "Swede," I called. He didn't answer. He began walking slowly towards the river. "What are you doing?" I stood up. He didn't stop walking. On his face was a strange calm, a calm with no fear in it at all. It even looked to me almost like happiness. "They're calling," he murmured softly. "I have to go." My heart felt as though it had stopped. He was walking straight towards the flooded, dangerous river. "Swede, stop!" I shouted. He didn't listen. His pace only quickened. I ran after him. My feet slipped in the sand. Willow branches lashed at my face. It felt as though they were trying to hold me back, but I didn't stop. He was now nearing the water's edge, just a few more steps, and he'd be in the water. That flooded river would sweep him away in an instant. I'd seen the speed of that current in daylight. If he fell in, there'd be no coming back. With one last effort, I threw myself forward with everything I had. My hands got his shoulders, but the Swede tried to shake me off, to throw me away. The strength inside him wasn't human strength. "Swede, look at me," I shouted. He tried to break free of my grip. His eyes still stared into the distance. The water's edge was right at our feet. I pulled him backward. My feet slipped in the wet sand. For one moment, I thought we'd both fall. "Swede, your daughter, your home. Think!" I shouted whatever came to mind. I had no idea what would work. I screamed his name over and over. He kept trying to push forward. His foot touched the water, with all my strength. I pulled him back. At that very instant, the hum sound suddenly stopped. The Swede suddenly collapsed. His legs gave way. I caught him, and we both fell onto the sand. What happened? His voice was ordinary again now. He looked confused. In his eyes, fear had returned, but now it was a human fear. You were walking towards the water. Do you remember any of it? He stared at me. No, I don't remember anything. I felt called, like something was saying my name. It sounded like a sweet voice. The two of us sat there in the sand, unable to move. For a while, neither of us spoke. The thought that I'd almost lost him left me shaking. We spent the rest of the night together by the fire, holding on to each other. Sleep never came, but that sound never returned. The willow trees, too, stood still and quiet now. The first streak of dawn appeared in the sky. We rose slowly. Our bodies were exhausted, aching. Sleeplessness showed in our eyes. But still, there was relief in being alive. The Swede suddenly pointed towards the far end of the island. Over there. What's that? I looked at that direction. Among the willow roots, at the water's edge, something was caught. It wasn't a piece of driftwood. Its shape filled me with dread. A terrible feeling rose in my stomach. Shall we go and look? The Swede asked quietly. I nodded. The two of us walked slowly, on trembling legs, towards that shape. Among the willow roots, something was caught. We walked towards it, on trembling legs. The truth we learnt that morning has never left me even to this day. The closer we got, the clearer that shape became. It was a man's body. I held my breath. The Swede stood frozen beside me. Shock showed on both our faces. It was the very peasant who had warned us the day before. His body was tangled among the willow roots. We had no idea how he'd ended up there. His boat was nowhere to be seen. He had warned us, and yet what had happened to him on the river, we could only guess at. I looked down. Around his body, in the sand, were the same round, deep pits we'd seen on our first day. Those pits formed a circle around him. In that instant, everything became clear to me. The Swede said quietly, "They received an offering last night. That's why. The sound stopped. That's why you were able to save me." My legs went weak. That peasant had warned us, and yet he had been given to this place in our stead. The thought sat heavy in my chest. We freed his body from the roots with as much care and respect as we could. We decided we'd report him at the nearest village. I looked at the willow trees one last time. They now seemed like ordinary trees. That voice, that swaying, gone entirely. The wind blew soft and gentle. Something felt satisfied, at peace. We finished repairing our canoe. The river had now calmed somewhat. We left that island for the last time. Looking back, the island appeared ordinary, even beautiful. No one who saw it would ever believe what had happened there. The Swede and I never spoke of it in detail again afterwards. Some things lie beyond words. Whenever we looked at each other, we knew that night still lived somewhere behind our eyes. But even now, when I hear the rustle of willow leaves at night, my body turns cold. That hum still comes to me in my dreams. What we lost on that island was more than just a paddle. We discovered that there is a world beyond this one, and we learned to carry that truth with us. Thanks for watching. We'll meet again soon. with more mysterious stories like this one.